What's going on, everybody? So a few episodes ago, Jason mentioned that I had some AC problems at my personal property. One of the advantages of being a property manager or working with a property management company is having those vendors readily available when things break down at your property. So today, we're talking about heating and AC. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, Pecan Lario here, and I want to welcome you to the next episode of the Bridgeman Properties video podcast. First of all, I want to apologize because last week we did not post a video. Actually, I was out of town on a personal matter, and Jason was unable to post the video as well. And as you can see, Jason's not here with us today, but we do have a guest with us today. Our first preferred vendor guest, and in fact our first guest ever on the video podcast. This is Alex. He is one of our preferred vendors for our HVAC or heating and HVAC, heating, ventilation, and AC, right? So we're going to be talking about some AC work today, and I'm just going to be asking him some questions, and we're just going to have a general conversation, basically. So before we get into it, first of all, I want to say thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to actually speak to the actual vendors that we work with to just get some down and dirty information from them and stuff like that. Our property managers speak to them quite a bit, but it's different when they are actually put on the spotlight, right? Normally you're out in the grind and not out in the forefront, right? Yep. But Alex, go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. My name's Alex Guevara. I've been in the air conditioning industry since about 2006. Kind of random how I ended up in the industry. I was actually in medical school, and
really?
I was in California. Yep. And I moved to Texas to start a new life here, and my degree was so advanced for Texas at that time that I couldn't find work.
Get out of here.
And so I ended up being in like the science, UT Science Center.
Uh-huh.
But like the starting pay for a lab tech there was like $20,000 a year, and I was like, man, no one can survive off of this. And so I had a family member that introduced me to a local company here, and I was just kind of like their scheduling guy for air conditioning. And I just listened to everything.
Yeah.
And picked up here and there. Went to school for a long time, so I knew how to self-teach. So next thing you know, I just picked up everything air conditioning, became their top sales guy, and it just all kind of went from there.
Wow. So you're originally from California?
Yep.
Huh. So what brought you to Texas, though? You said was it the schooling or?
No. And my ex-wife.
Oh, your ex-wife?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So as far as HVAC, you got into it with, you said a friend? A family member?
Family member, yeah.
Family member. And how long is the school for to become an HVAC person? Is there a school? How do you do that?
If you're an actual technician that's going to go out in the field, so many of the people that I've met, it's actually like they were taught by their father.
Right.
And they went out into the field with them, and that's how they kind of got their foot in the door. To get certified and everything, I don't think it takes any more than a year to get out there. Sometimes we take in people that have, we have a couple guys that are just military, and they got out, and we just teach them on our own.
Right.
The ropes.
Okay.
People that can follow instructions are great for this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Most military individuals can follow instructions and
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's funny because when I was in the military, I was a radiology tech, right? Mm-hmm. But to do radiology or X-ray tech in the military, you don't have to be certified.
Right.
They just teach you and you just do the job. But if you want to do it on the outside, you got to get certified, kind of thing.
Right.
So I understand that part of it. So medical school.
Yeah.
What happened there?
When I was younger, I used to think, man, I want to be the smartest guy in the room, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's all relative. You could be the smartest guy in the room, and it depends on what subject you're talking about.
Right.
So I kind of grew out of that, and I realized that it wasn't really a passion of mine. I spent a lot of time in the library in my youth, studying 8 hours a day, and then I'd get out and I'd be stuck in a laboratory for the next 3 or 4 hours. I just realized that I just wasn't having that human interaction that I was craving.
Oh, really?
Okay. And not until you get like into the actual practice, are you with people? It just was too boxed. My life was too boxed in.
Yeah.
So that's why.
So what's your degree in?
Biotechnology.
Biotechnology. Cool. So HVAC. Going back to HVAC. So you started off as a scheduler.
Yep.
Did sales.
Yep.
And when did you leave that company?
Let's see. That was in 2012.
2012.
Yeah.
Is that when you started your own?
I started my own company at that point. Right.
And you did that company for how many years?
For 2 years. Something out of thin air, and made a very successful company.
Right.
I ended up selling that one.
Yeah. Because I remember I met you at that NARPM event, probably like, oh my gosh, probably like 4 years ago and stuff. So it was a time ago. And you've known Jason for longer than that, right? So where did you actually meet Jason?
I met him at a NARPM event.
At a NARPM.
And he was just a great source of support during that time.
So Airtegrity, new company.
Yep.
Right. So what's your role on that?
My role is it's basically like as a project manager.
Okay.
I've helped train the guys that are out in the field, just make sure that our scheduling goes okay, and mostly sales.
And how many people are in that company?
We got about 6 or 7 guys.
6 or 7 techs. And then you the owner, or?
No, in this time I'm just the project manager.
Just a project manager, not just a project manager. So, but the owner of the company is
Francisco Bermudez.
Okay. And he's been doing it for how long?
Oh man, he's exactly what I was talking about with the whole, his dad started a company.
Oh, really?
This is a second generation company.
Okay.
So his dad started back in the 80s, and then, passing of the torch kind of thing. They were down in the valley, and he just brought the company up here to San Antonio.
Oh, okay, cool. So in your experience, what has been the hardest part of the business?
Hardest part, it's I would imagine like anything else, it's managing people's emotions. When it's 100 degrees outside, and your air conditioner went out, whether it's your fault or not, those people are upset. And it's a matter of just kind of deciphering how to maneuver through people's emotions when that's happened to them.
Yeah, that is very difficult, because I know as far as the property managers are concerned, they get those phone calls, even if the AC is gone, and for some reason it always seems like the AC goes out after hours, and on weekends and stuff like that. I don't know.
I've always told people, don't celebrate a holiday, don't have a baby, and don't let it be nights or weekends, because that's when your air conditioner.
Yeah. That's funny. But yeah, and I agree with that, because the property managers are constantly having to deal with those emotions with tenants, because normally the AC goes out in the hottest time in San Antonio, right? Yeah. Or having to deal with the emotions on the owners, because now they're going to have to pay for whatever repairs or replacements that need to be done, and some of those AC repairs can be costly and stuff like that. So like I was mentioning before, I did have an AC issue a few weeks ago, and I actually called Airtegrity, and Alex, actually I texted him, and they came out and they fixed my AC. Right now it's fixed, and I don't think I'm going to have any problems with it, but eventually it's going to go out, and I'm going to have to get it replaced. And you actually replaced my first unit, so and that was a pretty quick process as well. So
it's all started and done all on the same day.
Yeah,
typically.
Yeah. I was just surprised, because I had left. Right, me and my wife had to go to an event, and we left and came back, and it was dark, and they were still there working. I was like,
that's part of managing people's expectations.
Yeah. It's just, you normally don't think that individuals will actually stay after dark to do the work, right? You normally think the vendors will be like, well, it's getting too dark, I gotta go. I'll come back tomorrow.
You know, it's either tenants or homeowners that actually kick us out before we're ready.
Yeah.
Those guys do not want to come back.
So I met you at an ARPM event, and you said you met Jason at an ARPM event. Is that how you started with property management companies? How did you hear about ARPM and all that stuff?
Okay, so I was doing this whole sales stuff, and it just was dumb luck, actually. This lady became a great friend of mine for a long time. She was managing properties. I didn't even know that there was more than. I thought she was a rarity, like a property manager, taking care of other people's stuff. I said, look, instead of you having to call our call center, just always ask for me. I'll take care of you, and I'll always know your addresses, and we'll take care of you, no problem. So she really liked that concept.
Yeah.
One person to talk to, not have to explain who she is and what her property is, where she expected, all that kind of stuff. So I said, a couple years went by working that way with her, and she said, you're really good at what you do. Why don't you look at joining a whole group of property managers? I was like, there's more of you? Oh my gosh. So that's how I really got delved into that, is through just a referral from one property manager. It led to a whole bunch of other ones.
That's cool. Yeah, when I got into the business, I didn't think about property managers either. So when I went to my first NARPM event or my first committee meeting up at Sabor, and I saw all those individuals that are property managers, I was like, wow, this is a pretty big group. And really, when I first started, property managers, and even before that, obviously, were kind of the black sheep of general real estate, or just real estate and stuff, because nobody really wanted to get into property management and stuff like that. So, but there's a lot of individuals that are into property management, and it's a growing business right now, obviously, because rentals are not going to go away anytime soon and stuff like that. So, as far as when you got that referral and you actually went to your first NARPM event and stuff like that, and you started working more with property managers then, so what is like one of the most difficult things of working with a property management company, in your opinion?
Tenants bring a whole different aspect of the business. You have to be very careful what you say, because the tenant has expectations.
Right.
The homeowner has expectations. The property manager has expectations. So you're not just dealing with one person or one family. You're dealing with three entities all at once.
Right.
And making sure that everyone's on the same page, keeping the emotions in check and all that kind of stuff is hard to manage. The way that I really solved that problem real quick is that rather than trying to explain it to three different, the tenants we don't say much to, because they just want the air conditioner back on.
Right.
That's what we try to do as quickly as we can. So with the property managers and the homeowner, what I did is I just started writing proposals, and I just gave the pros and the cons of a repair versus a replacement.
Right.
And they could make an educated decision for themselves, so that it took the liability off the property manager, and they could never come back to me to say, hey, you never explained this. And I said,
right.
Actually, I put it right there. You made this decision for yourself, even though I warned you that this may not be the best thing.
Right.
But this is the cheapest option for you right now.
For right now.
Yeah.
And just getting the AC started for the actual tenants, because like you said, that's all they really care about at that time. And I guess that's the biggest thing with not putting out too much information for the tenants, and not in a negative way, but really the cost is going to be for the owner.
Yeah, I mean, with expectations of the tenants, the reason we have to keep it very minimal is because, if my tech accidentally lets it slip that, hey, we should really replace this, and that's what they're going to expect, but the homeowner can't necessarily financially afford that quite yet.
Yeah.
They just need another 6 months. They know that they're about to spend $900 on a very band-aided repair.
Right.
That gives them 6 months.
That gives them 6 months to. I mean, to be honest, that's what's going on with me, right? I mean, y'all made that repair on my property, and you did give me the option for a replacement, and I want to replace it, but I just replaced the first unit, right? So obviously I need to wait a little bit and few more months, I'll be able to go ahead and actually do that replacement. But that's good that you provide those options for the owner and at least get the unit working for the tenant and stuff like that. So let's talk about some of the actual repairs. So what is the most common thing that you actually see when you go out to these repairs?
The most common thing that could be done without our interaction and the tenants actually fixing it themselves is that they actually replace their filters on a monthly basis.
Now, we always tell our tenants to replace the filters every 30 days and to use a good quality pleated filter, not just the general filters that you can buy at Walmart, the green mesh kind of thing. But why is it so important to replace the filter?
The coil is one of the most instrumental parts of the air conditioner. It's on the indoor part of the AC, and if that coil does not have proper air flowing through it, you're going to have some problems. So imagine, well, I don't know how to put it, but basically you have a fan that's just like feeding air through it, and that filter is not allowing that air to flow through it. It's going to create a big old block of ice right on that coil.
Right.
That coil gets clogged up over a period of time where it no longer even has a filter. It doesn't matter whether you have a filter or not, but we found some systems caked with this much grime on it because people don't replace their filters. The whole air conditioning system is like, it's interconnected. It's like a domino effect. If one thing fails, it's going to lead to something else.
Right, okay.
The coil and the compressor are the most important components of the air conditioner.
And the compressor is where?
On the outside.
That's the outside
Yeah.
unit, okay.
So if that coil has been restricted for a long period of time, it's going to compromise that compressor. Those are the two most expensive pieces of equipment on the air conditioner. That filter, that $5 filter, is the most instrumental thing for protecting it. Just easy.
Yeah.
So if you're not replacing, not only are you not going to have cool air, you're actually damaging that system.
Damaging the system. So I know we've had some individuals that have not replaced the AC filters, or tenants that have not replaced the AC filters, and we've had techs go out there and they say that the unit is frozen.
Yeah.
Is there a way for the tenants to know when this unit is frozen, and when it is there something that they can do?
They have to shut off that unit right away. If it's frozen, a lot of times you can see that the pipes out on the outside of the unit by the condenser, there's some copper there with some insulation wrapped around it.
Mm-hmm.
But right next to the condenser, you'll see a big old white block of ice right on there. If you see that, turn off right away, because then you are putting stress on the compressor. It's not cooling anyway.
Right.
So there's no point. It's going to take 3 to 4 hours on a summer day for that whole line set to thaw out and the coil to thaw out. We can't work on that air conditioner until we can actually see what's going on with that system.
So if it was frozen and they shut it off, are they able to just replace the filter and just continue working the AC after that?
Sometimes yes. So you turn it off for 3 or 4 hours, let it thaw out, get that new filter in there, allow proper airflow to go through, and yes, sometimes it's that simple.
Yeah.
When I get people that they just replaced their equipment, a year's gone by, and they're like, I can't believe this thing's already frozen up and it's not working. I'm like, well, did you change the filter? It's the first question I ask them. And they're like, oh, you know what? It's been like 8 months.
Yeah,
well,
8 months.
Turn it off, put a new filter in there, see what happens.
Yeah.
If when you turn it on, I ask people, take a note of what the starting temperature is. So your house got up to 86 degrees. If in an hour it hasn't dropped at least 1 degree, then you know there's something else going on that's not related to the filter.
Oh, really?
A degree an hour is a good rule of thumb.
No kidding. That's good to know. I didn't know that. And so, going back to the frozen condenser unit. So, if it is an older unit and it is frozen, obviously you can shut it off. What else can happen? Is there anything else that can happen because of the ice built up on that?
You're just putting a lot of strain on the system. Other causes of a frozen coil is the blower motor that has gone out. If that motor is not spinning that air in there, it's going to freeze up the coil. Compressor failure, that could go out first. There's a leak in the coil that's allowing all the refrigerant. It's either lost a little bit or it's lost the whole entire thing. A lot of times, if you look inside, if it's in an AC closet, you open up the panel and you look at that coil, you'll be really surprised what it looks like. It's like completely rusted over. You're gonna see some black particles on the sides. Most likely you got a leak in that coil and it needs to be replaced.
So, when that doesn't defrost, where does that water go?
Well, sometimes you have a drain pan underneath that catches that water, and then that drain pan has a little PVC pipe that's supposed to lead up to the exterior of the house. Sometimes when you have that ice buildup, it starts trickling down different paths on that coil or the actual panel.
Right.
And there's just no telling where it's going to go. Sometimes it's going to fall outside the pan and whatever, and it can end up ruining some stuff.
Yeah.
So it's very important to turn it off as soon as possible. And even then, the ice has still got to melt.
Right. Exactly.
So putting towels around where you see, or buckets, whatever, will help. A lot of times, a good way to prevent a problem like that is a emergency float switch. It'll turn off the air conditioner for you once that pan or once that drain line has reached a certain level.
Okay.
It's going to turn off the air conditioner
the whole
for
unit.
you.
So you'll notice when it starts getting hot, right? So we were discussing some preventative maintenance for the tenants, and mainly that would be the AC filter, changing the AC filter. We actually started a program. This is kind of off topic, but we just actually started a program now with a company called Filter Easy, which we're going to automatically be sending the AC filter to the tenants, so that they pretty much don't have an excuse on not changing the filter, because I have problems changing the filter in my property too, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's out of sight, out of mind. And even when you're at Walmart or Lowe's or something, you're not thinking about purchasing an AC filter, right? So this program, it does get charged to the tenant, but it saves the tenant money in their heating and air conditioning costs, right? Because they're changing the filters much more frequently than the unit actually working harder with a dirty filter. And then of course it helps the owner, because the tenants are replacing those filters constantly. So they get shipped out once a month, and they get an email saying that, hey, your AC filter was shipped out. It has a date stamp on the filter for when they put it in and stuff like that. So we actually just started this program. We're going to see how it works and stuff. So we got a few properties on there right now, but we're probably going to be rolling into it with the other things. But that's the biggest thing for the tenants, I guess, is the AC filter, replacing that on a regular basis. What kind of preventative maintenance stuff should the actual owners of properties do?
Yeah, so preventive maintenance is really important. When you buy it, let's say you just bought some equipment, even on that, it's so important. You do it to your car, right?
Yeah.
You do it to something as expensive as that. The air conditioner in your house is probably the most expensive, aside from plumbing repairs. Those are the two most expensive repairs in a house. So if you can prevent that, man, it's a huge difference. Maintenance for equipment that's brand new. If you look at the small terms on those new air conditioners, even on there it says you should maintain them once or twice a year.
Oh, really? Okay.
Or you void your warranty. Okay? So, no one's actually ever pushed that necessarily, but it is they could technically come back and say, hey, we actually don't want to warranty this for you.
Yeah.
You have no proof that you ever did the
servicing.
Right. But aside from that, there's so many things that you could avoid. There's a way to check the compressors to make sure that they're still running at optimal levels. Sometimes you can hear just the noise of the motors, little clankings. The drains are a big issue. Once or twice a year, it's good to get those drains flushed out to prevent that flooding that could occur into your house.
Right.
It's good common sense. Just like you would take care of your car, you should take care of your air conditioner.
So I've heard that AC tech can go out there and service the unit, and like you were saying, as far as the compressor, checking the compressor and seeing how much more life it has in the compressor. So is there other parts in there in the AC system that you can look at and it may not need to be replaced at that time, but you can tell that it's probably going to go bad within the next.
You got little components like the capacitor, your contactor, your indoor blower motor, your outdoor blower motor, and all that stuff. Like capacitor is $100 part to be changed out, right? Well, that capacitor is really important for your condenser fan motor. If it's not running optimal, it's putting a little bit of strain on that motor. So take care of the little part, so that bigger part that's more costly is not going to bite you in the butt later on.
All right. So preventative maintenance, obviously, instead of waiting for the thing to go out, right? Yeah, exactly. A tech can actually go out there, service the unit, clean the unit, whatever they need to do, and then provide some kind of report to the owner saying, hey, these parts, you recommend these parts to be replaced because they're putting strain on the blower motor or the compressor or things of that nature.
Yeah, and we check refrigerant levels too. That's really important. If it's not at optimal levels, you're putting strain on that compressor. If it's 2 pounds low on refrigerant, that's kind of like regular wear and tear. We'll still leak check it, but once it gets above that, we start thinking that there's probably a leak in the system. If it's under a 10-year warranty, you want to know before that 10-year warranty has been expired on the parts, because then you can get that coil replaced at no additional cost for that.
Right.
So let's say it's year 9, you want to know that before it's year 11, and man, you miss that opportunity.
Exactly. And talking about the coil and the refrigerant, so there was a change in refrigerants, right?
Yeah, that's so crucial for this upcoming year. Legislation's led that by 2020, any failed air conditioner needs to be transitioned from R22 to the new 410A. So that's a big deal.
So does that mean like whole new units, or?
Yeah, for a while we were trying to help out homeowners with the expense of just replacing one. So the outdoor unit's the important one that's going to make the transition to the new refrigerant. And we were trying to help people by not replacing the inside. But those inside units, depending on how old they are, they were made for R22. And you can use an expansion valve to make it kind of communicate between the two. But those coils, they were made for a different kind of refrigerant, so they couldn't handle the pressure of that new. And we were encountering too many problems. So unfortunately, with the new refrigerant that's going to be required, you got to replace the whole thing.
They're going to have to replace the whole thing.
So if you got R22, just plan by 2020, any failed air conditioner is going to need to
It's going to have to be replaced anyway, no matter what.
Yeah, we will know. Even if we have it in stock, legally we cannot put that in there.
That's good to know. I did not know that. So that new unit you put in for me, is that?
It's 410. Yeah.
Okay, so because I know my other unit, I think it's
R22.
22.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's a bigger unit than the one that you replaced too.
I think they're actually the same size.
Really? Oh, okay. Well, if it is, good, because then I know roughly the price range.
Yeah.
So preventative maintenance, very important for the owner, even though they are not living at the property. Per the Texas Property Code, we should be providing heating and AC for the tenants and stuff like that. One of the biggest things, I guess, in question would be what's considered an emergency repair when it comes to AC. So anytime we get an AC work order from a tenant, it's usually during the heat of the summer, and it does get hot here in San Antonio, but it's always an emergency for the tenants and stuff like that. But it's really not considered an emergency per the Texas Property Code, unless
it's over 100 degrees.
Yeah, it's over 100 degrees, or depending on who's living in the property, young children, older individuals. But as far as an AC vendor, what's considered an emergency?
Well, first, like I said, managing expectations, right? So we try as a company to get out to a property on the same day when we get a work order, at the very least the next day. Emergencies we take more seriously is anything that involves water. If people see water coming down from the ceiling or through a vent, something irregular is going on. So we want to make sure that we're helping to prevent any damage to the house.
Okay.
Those we really take very seriously.
So that was one of my questions was, so if there's AC intake, or not intake, AC vent, and there's dripping water,
Yeah.
or there's mold around it, is that normal?
Yeah, it's almost impossible to avoid that kind of stuff. Mold, you know, we legally can't say whether it's mold or not.
Right.
We can just say it's a black
Mildew.
substance.
Yeah.
But let's be realistic here. Every air conditioner condensates. There's a lot of humidity that it's removing, a lot of humidity that's inside the system. It's going to happen. So it's pretty typical of it to build that kind of stuff. We have UV lights that people put in and different ranges of how much you want to remove. Some of them specifically is just for the mold and bacterial growth. Some of them remove allergens, pollen, dirt. And you could
So it's complete science.
Yeah, it you know, you could sneeze and within that realm it oxidizes your sneeze and it kills all the germs right away.
Really? And that's stuff that you can add to the unit?
Add to the unit.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know all of that and stuff. That's pretty cool. But if there is excessive amount of water coming from the vents, then you were saying that's a problem?
Really, yeah, if there's a lot of water coming through from one of the vents, either the air conditioner is sitting right over that vent and it's falling out of the drain pan. Let's see, 2 nights ago actually on one of your guys' properties, we blew out the drain. That was a primary cause, right? There was a clogged drain line and we blew it out and everything looked fine by the time we left. A couple hours later the tenant said, oh, well, now it's leaking from one of the vents, and you know, obviously it didn't work what they did. So we come back out there and come to find out that it wasn't clogged up again, but whoever installed that PVC pipe never glued it together. So when we blew it out, it unglued it, and it was on the, you know, in between sheetrock. So you couldn't tell until
right. Because it's normally going to drain anyway, right?
Yeah.
The primary drains no matter what.
So these guys had to be like, you know, little acrobats inside the walls trying to get all this stuff back together and glued and making sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah. So those because there's usually normally there's usually 2 drains, right? Primary and secondary. Mm-hmm. And the primary usually drains what?
Drains down into like a utility room, a bathroom, goes right to the sink.
And it's constantly doing that, especially during the summer, right?
Yes.
So you're going to hear water.
You're going to hear water.
And the only reason I ask is because sometimes we get calls from tenants saying that they keep hearing water in their sink, you know, in their bathroom sink or in their utility room kind of thing.
Sometimes the plumbing, because the AC drain leads right into a bathroom sink. If you're not keeping that sink clear of the plumbing,
right,
that same water is going from your air conditioner into that. Sometimes it's a plumbing related thing that's backing up our AC drain line.
Yeah.
So those are rare, but it happens sometimes.
So continuing to talk about the secondary drain, I know that we've had houses before that it's been draining out of there, and it's been draining out of there constantly. We haven't gotten any phone calls from the tenants or whatever, but normally there's like a stain on the wall, and it's a rust stain.
Yeah.
So what's the cause of that?
Couple of reasons. If it's the drain's completely coming from the unit, the coil, like I said, it condensates. There's a lot of rust on it. So as air's traveling through there, condensation's being developed on the coil itself, and just some of the dripping that's coming from the coil itself, some of that rust is coming into that drain. That's what's going to cause a stain. The other thing is that if the water is dripping into a drip pan, and that drip pan has a line coming to the outside, that drip pan starts to rust as well, and that's also going to leave a stain.
So if there's an excessive stain on the wall, could it just be the coil going bad or just rusting out, or?
It's probably an older unit.
It's probably an older unit.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know we've had a house before that there was a pretty bad stain on the wall. We never knew anything about it, and the owner ended up having to replace the coil because it was rusted out.
Yeah.
The owner was kind of upset because he said it could have been prevented.
I don't know. I mean, air conditioners, just like with anything else, it has a life,
Yeah.
an expected life. Would he have cared that stain was happening if he could save himself a year before he had to replace it?
Yeah.
So honestly, it probably started staining long before was ready to replace it.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Okay. So let's go into some of the maintenance requests that we get in, and some of the stuff that we get from owners, not owners, tenants, and you can answer some of these questions. So lots of times when we get a maintenance request and the tenants just tell us that the unit is not cooling, that's for us is very general, right? We can send that work order over to you saying, hey, the unit is not cooling, but is there anything specific that y'all should know before we send you out there?
No, not really. I mean, aside from asking them if their filters are clean, that's the only thing that they can really prevent.
Okay.
I kind of ask them little questions before I go out there. One of the most common things is it the indoor or the outdoor unit that's not coming on? Because it's either one or the other.
Right.
If it's the outdoor unit, they tell me it's not coming on, but they feel air still passing through on the inside because the inside's working. I ask them if the outdoor unit's making a little buzzing noise. If it is, and this is just out of my own curiosity, if it's making a little buzzing noise, most likely it's the capacitor. If something's going to go wrong, I would want it to be the capacitor as a homeowner because it's one of the least expensive repairs.
As far as that cage on the compressor, that should be kept clean as well, right?
Yeah, I always try to tell people if you're going to do any kind of lawn maintenance, if you're cutting your grass and you know how your lawnmower kind of blows the grass to a certain direction,
Right.
always make sure that when you've got that lawnmower that it's going away from the air conditioner. Some people have made the mistake and they're blowing it into it. So the air conditioner itself is condensating, right? And you got this dirty air coming through into it. Well, what do you think water and dirt does, right? It cakes on like mud.
Yeah.
And so there's also a coil on the outside condenser. It's a condenser coil right around it. And it's sometimes it's protected by a little metal gate. Sometimes it's very exposed. But either way, when that dirt gets caked on there, it's just like the indoor coil. It can't breathe. It's not going to do its job, and it's going to fail. Or sometimes a rock will go right into that coil, and all the refrigerant will leak out there.
We've had a tenant that had a dog
Yep.
that used to
Pee on
urinate, urinate
Yep.
on it, pee on it all the time, and it actually messed up the whole unit. And we had to
there's a lot
replace
of
it.
copper components and metal that can get oxidized. When that happens, it's going to create holes, and next thing you know, you got a refrigerant loss.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's pretty much all because we covered all the questions at the beginning. I do have, and we were discussing this before, so you don't really work with home warranties too much.
No.
No. So we do have houses that have some home warranties, and normally with our experiences, when we call a home warranty for an AC issue or any other issue, really, it's really dependent on the vendors that they use. But sometimes the vendors can't go out there as fast as in-house vendors like you. They probably can go out there in 2 to 3 days. Normally, if, like we were talking before, if the AC goes out after hours on weekends, they're not going to go out on the weekends. They're going to go out during the week. And when they do go out, they normally would have to get a part.
Yeah.
And it takes them longer to get a part. Why is that? Why do you think?
I can only tell you what we think.
Okay.
We think that you being comfortable is really important. Our customers matter to us. So we kind of have the mentality like, what would we want to experience? How would we want to be treated? So you matter so much to us that we're gonna bend over backwards to make sure that part gets here as fast as possible, that we get there as fast as possible. Sometimes it's unavoidable. A part is in, I don't know, Tennessee, and it needs to be brought here.
Yeah.
You may not like the answer. I can probably get it here overnight, but you may not like the price that it costs to get it
Here, right.
But there's always options. There's always options. Home warranty companies, what I would suggest to a homeowner is really do your homework. I've heard some real nightmare stories of, read that small print because it matters. If there's one little bit of rust on that indoor coil, even if it's just a small speck, they won't let you claim that warranty because rust is not allowed on a coil. And I'm like, let's be realistic here. How do you avoid that?
Exactly.
It's a metal and it condensates. So that's one thing. Read reports about how quickly those companies can come out there because that obviously is going to matter to you or your tenant.
Right. So and it's really dependent on the vendor. And I like the way you said that your customers matter and stuff like that. And I don't think that the home warranty vendors don't care about their customers, but obviously they're working under the home warranty, right? So there's rules and stipulations that they have to follow, and for them to do any work onto the unit or with the unit has to go get run through the home warranty. So I like the way you said read your home warranty policy because it is really dependent on how items in your home are going to get fixed. Cool. So I think we've gotten a lot of good information. I want to thank you for coming in today. Sorry Jason is not here. I'm pretty sure if Jason was here, he would be asking you a whole bunch of other different questions and stuff like that. But I think we got a good, a lot of good content, a lot of good information for tenants and for owners. I really appreciate you coming out. Is there any last minute thoughts?
No, just change those filters.
Just change
Can't
those.
stress that enough.
Cool. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for watching. Please check us out or check this video out on YouTube. Hit the like button or dislike button. It doesn't matter. Comment. Let us know if there was something that we missed or whatever. I will be providing some contact information for Alex and Airtegrity. So if you need their services, just check it out in the comment section below or at the end of the video. Check us out on Facebook. Y'all have a Facebook account, right? So check them out on Facebook, like them on Facebook. Check out our Instagram account and follow us, and we're going to be putting out some more information. We hope to talk to you, send out another video next week. Jason should be back, and we should be good to go. All right? Have a good one. Take care.